Welcome to another episode of Again in Our Room. She's Kristin.
And she's Bobbi.
And this week we are going to be talking about some pretty interesting fan theories. We're also going to cover 1-star reviews of A Court of Silver Flames.
And those were brutal.
Yeah. And
the haters were out in strength.
Yeah. So, a few things before we get started. There are going to be spoilers for all of A Court of Thorns and Roses here because we are discussing the 5th book. There will also be some spoilers for Throne of Glass, and we're also going to cover some Crescent City stuff. I'm just going to say there's spoilers because we're going to be discussing. I won't get too crazy with those because Kristin hasn't even read Crescent City yet. So she's making her way through Throne of Glass right now. So even some of that is censored a bit because I'm not going to wreck, that's the last few books in the series that she has going on. So I just want to preface that up front for this week's episode.
Speaking of spoilers, did you hear about that guy that was living in a research facility stabbed his coworker because his coworker kept spoiling every book that the guy would pick up?
Yeah. Yep. I did read about that. It was wild. I think I read about it because you sent it to me.
Sergei Savitsky. His colleague kept telling him the endings of books he wanted to read. So he stabbed him.
That's one way to handle the situation for sure. Not sure it's the way I would choose, but yeah, that's it. That's one way. So, Kristin.
So, Bobbi.
What did you read this week?
I finally, Bobbi's been recommending Psycho Shifters for quite a minute now. Finally read it. I absolutely loved it. I devoured all 4 books in 4 days? 5 days?
Yeah.
4.5 days. That's pretty much all I did. But absolutely loved. I love the internal dialogue. Like you said, it's actually hilarious.
Mm-hmm.
I was very nervous when you said it was funny because I think humor is a hard thing to write. I think humor is very cringy a lot of times when authors try to write in humor. I think a lot of times it falls flat. This did not fall flat. I thought the humor was hysterical. I thought her inner dialogue was very relatable.
Mm-hmm.
I did, however, give it a 3 out of 5 because if there's one thing I hate, it's a slow burn.
Yeah, I saw that in the show notes, and I was devastated by that grading because it deserves so much more than that outside of slow burn, because it's not just about the romance. It eventually gets
barely at all about the romance.
Yeah, it is. It's barely at all about the romance. And you don't even, there's explicit scenes, but the first 2 books the scenes don't really involve the main female character. It ends up being a reverse harem. And it's good. But
yeah.
When I tell you that I guess it is a slow burn, but it's so much more than that. It's about friendship and feminine strength and all of this stuff. And yeah, so I was so devastated that you gave it a 3 out of 5 because it was a slow burn. And I'm just over here that's easily a 4.8 series, the whole series. Actually, it's 5 stars for me the whole way, but I don't know. I know you hate slow burns.
That was the only part I was frustrated with, but the internal dialogue of the character is very relatable, very down to earth, very yeah, I think she is a lot like us of I'm not going to sit here and cry. I'm just going to be like, what the fuck? That is so rude.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. And then she ends up making this best friend. So there's going to be 6 books. The first 3 are about one best friend and the next 3 are about the other best friend. the next book comes out July 26th, so 3 freaking days. I'm pumped. I've been waiting for it. And then the last book will come out in December. So by year end, it should be a completed series. And when I tell you, like, the 2 best friends in that book, like, none of that crazy shit, obviously it's a made up world, has happened to Kristin and I, but the vibes between those 2 girls, I'm like, ride or die, baby. That's me and Kristin, 110%. So,
And the way they became friends of like, you seem crazy. You also seem crazy. Let's be best friends.
yes. Surrounded by a bunch of men and like all of this crazy shit. And it's just like, yeah, it's so good. The author by day is a lawyer. So she's seen some shit. She's read some shit. She's worked on some cases. And you can tell like that inner dialogue that's why that inner dialogue is so relatable, because she's seen some shit, she knows some shit, she's extremely intelligent, and she's probably had a lot of what the fuck moments. Like,
when you told me that she was a lawyer, I was like, oh my god, that makes so much sense.
yes, yep,
It all makes sense now.
so good.
So more lawyers write books. Just kidding, some of you are really dry.
Yeah.
Bobbi, what did you read this week? I know it's summer in Michigan, so
I actually read this week though. So part of that is because I had to do some travel for work, so I had some time in an airport and stuff like that. So I was able to get through the Bones of Benevolence. I scored it a 4.3 out of 5. I will be writing my Amazon and Goodreads review for that soon. I wanted to do it today, but I got caught up in some other stuff. Very good. Very good. I will say the beginning of part 3 was a little dodgy for me. Some of the things that happened there, I'm a little iffy about still. But man, does she know how to write a fucking ending? Because everything I thought was coming, nope. Complete curveball, total plot twist, cliffhanger. Really epic. Excited for the next book. I know it's probably going to be another year before she gets it out, but excellent job on that, Lauren. Very proud of you. Very excited to continue on with the series. And really cool thing is one of my favorite characters is we don't know if you don't know what happened to him. Something happened to him at the very end, and you don't know his fate, which sucks. But he's getting a novella. So she's going to be coming out with that. That's going to come soon. And then the 3rd book in the series will come out. But and the novella takes place before the entire series happens, but even on the timeline before the 1st book. So very excited to read about that gap that happens there. I also read Thunder Thighs. It's a very short romance novella. It's really cute. I gave it a 3.7 out of 5. There's 5 in the series. They're like short romance novellas, and it's actually 5 siblings that the 1st book is not necessarily about him. In a way, I guess it is. But very good. It's about a woman who owns a bar. She's a thicker, stouter girl, and she ends up meeting her Viking man that she's always dreamt about. It's very good, very cute, very quick, easy read. I read it between 2 short flights and a layover, so in a matter of 6 hours, you could read that book. And I picked it back up. It's one I had to put down to get through some other stuff for the podcast. It's the 2nd book, and it's called, I'm going to say this wrong. I need her page. She has a pronunciation page in the front of the book, and I always have to reference it. Ethereum, might be how you say it. Ethereum. It's actually spelt wrong on the notes. I just looked on my app, and I was like, ooh, I spelled that wrong. But very good, very unique world building here. Very curious to see how it goes. I'm just over halfway through.
very cool.
Yeah.
Circling back to Bones of Benevolence, I feel like I haven't read it yet, but you said there's a lot of plot twists, and I feel like plot twists are really difficult because sometimes you see them coming, right, and they're too obvious, and other times they're so far out in left field that you're like, well, that doesn't even make sense. So, kudos to Lauren.
Yeah.
For good plot twists that make sense and come out of left field.
Yeah, she had me till the very end and still has me. So
cool. What a busy week. Did you want to touch on our dislike of SJM this week, or are we going to scoot right past that?
No, we're going to talk about it because it's just going to stir the pot. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So I'll get started. Okay. SJM. First, I'm going to start here because this is SJM. She was on, I don't know if it was I saw the TikTok of it. I don't know if it was a live or whatever it was, where she mentions that she might not actually be done with the Throne of Glass series. And she has mentioned doing spin-offs before, of wanting to explore other characters. She's mentioned this with the Crescent City series. So for those of you that don't know, and this isn't really a spoiler, because you can open the first page of Crescent City and read about it. There's 4 houses in Crescent City. So the first 2 houses are the names of the first book. The third one will be another house. She's contracted right now for 3 books for that series, and she's always said that the first 3 books will be about the main character, Bryce, and her partner. I don't want to spoil who her partner is, even if you're in the internet, you probably know by now, but that's okay. So
as long as you didn't hear it from me.
Yes. So she has mentioned that she wants to continue and that she hopes there's a 4th book and maybe pivoting about another character in who's introduced to us in the first 3 books. Now, one of the things that's really frustrating though is that she just did the cover release for Hosfas, which is House of Flame and Shadow, a Crescent City novel, book 3. When I tell you this is a gorgeous, gorgeous cover, it is so beautiful. It's very exciting because she's always mentioned that there are little Easter eggs in all of her cover art. This cover art is also a lot clearer than the first 2 books cover art because in the art they did some editing and they added the red and they added the blue for the first and second book respectively, and this one they haven't shielded it out as much or shadowed it out. It's a lot bolder. So there's so many things, and I've pointed out a couple things and made some notes on my own, but I didn't actually share them here in the drive because, again, Kristin has not read Crescent City, so I didn't want to point things out and start to accidentally spoil some things for her. The big thing here, though, about this release is there's pre-orders available. You can pre-order it from Barnes & Noble, Walmart, Target, indie bookstores, and in every different retailer will have a different bonus content. So it will be content around specific characters, but you don't get all of the bonus content. So it's a giant money grab. So if
no kidding.
Yeah. So if you,
that is so messed up.
It truly is frustrating. So, if you order from Barnes & Noble, you're going to get a bonus chapter about Bryce and somebody else. And then if you order from Walmart, you're going to get Bryce, someone else, and someone else. There's 3 in that one. And so if you wanted specific bonus chapters, you'd have to buy from specific locations. And if you want to read all of them, like everybody in the fandom wants to, you have to know somebody who's ordering, my best friend, Paige, she pre-ordered. And I said, where did you pre-order from? Because I want to pre-order from somewhere else and then we can swap books. But now I'm stuck between two different retailers because I want to support my indie bookstore, but I also want the bonus chapter from the Walmart version. And I'm like, well, shoot. So it's a little frustrating that there's different bonus chapters at different retailers. I feel like if you're going to have that type of bonus content, you should have some type of asterisk that says, please pre-order from the location that you desire to have that copy in. But if you sign up to my newsletter 2 months after the book comes out, I'm going to send all the bonus content in my newsletter for everyone to read.
Here's what I bet she does, just based on this whole money grab thing. I bet she waits until everybody pre-orders their copies, and then like the diehard fans and the ones that truly want to read every single bonus one are going to pre-order from every single bookstore, right? Mm-hmm. To get all of them. And then I bet she just publishes those bonus chapters as a separate novella you can buy.
Yeah, I'm not so sure.
That's the ultimate money grab.
Yeah, I hope she doesn't do that because it's going to put a really bad taste in my mouth. And a couple weeks ago, for a different reason that I'm not sure if I want to discuss out loud yet, SJM has frustrated me. So with the release on Instagram, I can't remember what day this was, you guys. My week was really busy, and this was like a really chaotic day because I had to work and also go bonkers about the cover release at the same time.
Oh, I have a quick question. Uh-huh. Is this the cover that was AI generated?
No, I'm going to come back to that.
Okay.
I'm going to come back to that. So if you looked at the Instagram post of the cover reveal and you swiped over to see where you could pre-order from, there were no warnings. And there was a spoiler on that page for the series. Now, you could argue that, you know, if you haven't read Crescent City and gotten to the end of the second book, it's your own fault, right? Because it's been out for a while. But I still think there should have been a warning, knowing that a lot of people are just finding her books and really binging to get through them, to get caught up with the rest of the fandom. I really think there should have been a second page that says, on the next page are the pre-order locations with the bonus content associated with each retailer. Understand their spoilers. Proceed with caution. Or had the spoiler one on a completely separate page and still given that warning beforehand.
Did you read... This is an aside. Did you read through any of the comments on her posting of the Crescent City thing? I just didn't know if anybody was outraged or other people thought it was a money grab.
Well, that's what brought it to my attention, is because I was reading the comments and someone said, and again, like I said, I was working, so I didn't pay much attention. Like, I didn't even read all of the bonus content. There was somebody I commented back to and I said, I'd like to hear your thoughts on why you say this is a money grab and the spoilers. And when I read that, I actually went back up and I was looking for the spoiler and I found them. And so the woman that I commented on, she commented back and she's like, yeah, if you want all the bonus content, you have to buy from multiple retailers. Huge money grab. And I was like, yeah, that's right. I didn't even think about that because I was just going to purchase from my indie bookstore. And then I was like, yeah, and I went back and I found the spoiler. You're right. That's trash. That's a huge bummer, right? I just feel like it's slightly disrespectful to your new readers. Now, does SJM care? Probably not. And that's totally fine as an author. Like, you know, you're just putting your content out into the world for people to consume. And after your job's done there, right? You don't need to worry about the reviews. You don't need to worry about all that. You did what you were supposed to do. Do you want me to talk about the AI cover art? situation?
Yeah, if you want to. I didn't know if we were looping back to that. I just didn't know if this Crescent City one was the AI art.
No, she specifically
And if we
uses...
and if we were ghosting over that because of the thing you didn't want to talk about.
Yeah, so she specifically uses one of her favorite artists to create the Crescent City covers that are with the people on them. Now,
Yeah.
the Crescent City and I think it's the paperbacks in the UK, they have different covers, and the first one is of a furry dragon. I don't know what it is. And the second one is of a wolf. So on those covers of those UK paperbacks, I believe that's what they are. The second one is of a wolf's head, and it's actually AI generated. And then originally the art is like a rainbow fur, and they changed it to be red to kind of follow the books. So I'm gonna talk about it.
It's whatever you want to do, man. It's whatever you want to do.
So I've been designing some stuff to create bookish attire. And I reached out for licensing. And I'm going to find this email and read it verbatim, so I am doing justice to the situation. You get an automatic reply when you request licensing rights. At the very bottom, it gives you the details about how many pieces you can sell in a calendar year and what the royalty rates are. And basic information like that. At the bottom, though, it says, please note you may not use Midjourney, Artbreeder, or any other AI software to create your art. I have not responded to this email yet and shared my designs because I'm really on the fence about how to move forward, because we know that some of the art for the covers of the books utilize Bloomsbury or SJM. I don't know how that discussion came about and who found the image and proceeded to say, let's use it. I do not know. That's my asterisk to this conversation here. I'm not blaming SJM, but this is you're reaching out to the SJM team, which is Bloomsbury, right? Mm-hmm. And her associates. They use AI art that was manipulated by Photoshop to change the color and maybe some minor details. I'm not fully sure. I haven't, it's been a while since I've looked at the images side by side. But they're asking you not to do that if you're going to create anything to sell, which is really frustrating because I understand there's a huge issue with AI right now. Especially when you're coming into looking at writers and like the film industry, we know they're striking right now. Writers and actors are striking right now, rightfully so, and good for them. And AI is a big part of that conversation because it's like replacing them. Here's my thing, though. I think SJM should perhaps reevaluate that cover if she's asking other creators to have this level of standard, because she's not keeping up with her own level of standard then. If she wants original art, then she should be using original art. So that is why I'm very frustrated with SJM right now. Because she's fucking rich, dude. She's got fucking money. She's on contract for like 7 more books or something crazy with Bloomsbury. Wow. Like there's a manuscript about the World of Throne of Glass that's all about lineage that's just chilling. It has a ISBN already. It exists in the world, but it's in a drawer somewhere in the archives of Bloomsbury, and a lot of people want that book because of the lineage thing that you're starting to see throughout her Maasaverse, right? So yeah, really, really frustrating there.
For me, it's not so much the issue of her being rich or having so much money. It's the idea that, like, it almost seems as if she doesn't care about the readers anymore.
Yep.
And she, it's not about the fans. It's not about the authenticity or anything like that. It's literally just a money grab in every sense of the word.
That's my concern too.
In everything that she's doing.
Yeah, that's my concern too. And like, part of me feels that way, but the other part of me doesn't, because I'm pretty sure the Hulu series for Throne of Glass fell through, and I'm pretty sure the ACOTAR one fell through too, because she moved from back to like the Pennsylvania, New York area from LA. Pretty sure all that fell through, and I'm guessing it's because she wanted details and she wanted to do it a certain way, and they wouldn't allow her, and she's trying to stay true. And my hope is that, because SJM has left the internet for the most part, because the fandom's psycho. Like, yep, we're psycho. I would leave the internet too, because people can be really aggressive about how passionate they get about this, and it comes with a lot of fandoms, right? But my thing is, I'm just hoping she stays true. Like, I'm hoping she still loves the stories she's telling, and that's what she's focused on, and all else is background noise for her. And maybe some of these decisions aren't SJM's, but she's just trying to tell a story, and she's so in love with it, and this is the way to get it out there, and she's riding a wave. I don't know. But I do think that if she can put her foot down about how the writing is going for it to become, come in theater or in motion picture, she should probably put her foot down to her team about this whole AI thing or request a change.
Yeah. And, I think if you're working through a book series, especially one this popular, you have to leave the internet, because you are just going to be bombarded with fan theories.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's really going to,
that could
impact. Yeah.
Yeah, that could.
Of what she's deciding to do.
Yeah. Yep.
So whether it's hate that she's getting, or just an influx of ideas that are impacting the story itself, it's a hard thing when everybody's got a theory on where they want you to go with it.
Yep. Which is a perfect segue for our next part of our conversation. Excellent job, Kristin.
Thank you. They call me Miss Segway. Nope, never mind. Nobody calls me that. Never mind. Please don't call me that.
All right. We're going to go back to book 1 for a hot second, team. Are you ready for this, my roomies? We're going to talk about Amarantha again. I know I've talked about her before, but Paige sent me a video from @lifeofkrd, Kylie, on TikTok, and she points out some really, really important things about Amarantha that I don't think a lot of people notice. So awesome job with your video. You had my mind just going. So I'm going to paraphrase the things that she pointed out. What I will do is in the show description, I will link her TikTok video, or at least link to her page, so you can go check it out later. So make sure to check out that description, because there's a lot of information in there. Kylie talks about how Amarantha is described as having ebony eyes, so black eyes. Where we see black eyes in the story is Vulg, right? In Throne of Glass. Contrived and cold attitude, Vulg, very emotionless, very like muted personality. They also talk about how Tamlin is sitting next to Amarantha on a throne of black rock. And if we think back to Throne of Glass, what do we think about? The black collars, right? She also has
Wait,
No, go ahead.
I have a question, though.
Yeah.
Didn't the king of Adarlan, didn't he use those big black rocks to stop magic?
Yeah.
The towers?
Yeah. So that's the same stone, right? So that, and Tamlin was very stoic, right? Well, we think that he was being leached of his powers. And we know that when you got close to that stone, you felt a different way. Like you were like creeped out. You didn't feel right. It messed with your head. So he was sitting on that the whole time. So maybe that's why Tamlin was like,
That's right.
Just
He was just trying not to throw up
the whole time. Yeah. So she has sharp canines and is mentioned to be very, very old because when Feyre says her name, she says Feyre. Feyre is an old name from our earlier dialects, and she knows those dialects. She knows that it's an old name. She knows that history very well. She can also leech power. So there's a part where Tarquin is first introduced to us, and he's normally shining and gold and summery, and he's got light within him, right? Well, there's a part where when she's talking to him and near him, Amarantha is, he looks dimmer. He's perceived as dimmer and muted. She also stole all of the High Lord's powers with a spell from a spell book, and a spell that could only be used once. What does that sound
weird.
like? That sounds a lot like Throne of Glass and weird marks, word marks, weird marks. We're calling them weird here, roomies, because
we're weird.
We're weird, okay? And then Rhysand is saying something to Feyre and talks about how she wants to break and dominate. I think it's about Tamlin. I'm pretty sure it's about Tamlin. Again, go watch the video. But about Tamlin, she wants to break and dominate like she likes to do with our kind, implying that she's not Fae, like they're Fae.
Now, do you think she's implying, or do you think Rhysand is implying that she's not Fae, or she's not one of the High Lords when he says our kind?
I think it's about Fae in general.
Gotcha.
Yeah, that's how I perceived it, at least. And when Kylie mentions it, that in this video, that's how she perceives it too.
Mm-hmm.
And then at the end, when Feyre is talking to her, Feyre talks about how Amarantha starts to show her deepest fears and her darkest memories. That is extremely, extremely similar to the end of Hair of Fire, when Aelin is fighting the three Volg princes. She's seeing this contemplation of all of her deepest, darkest fears and memories.
Oh my God, almost identical.
Almost identical. Totally missed that.
Wow.
Yeah, because I read ACOTAR before, and it, like, I don't know, and this was like a year ago. I really should do a reread, and I think I'm gonna start after I read the next Psycho Shifters. Pray for me, y'all. Pray for me.
Are you gonna do a paper read through with all your annotations and sticky notes, or?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Because I read them ebook first, and I may have just bought all of TOG. Oops. Because I really wanted the old covers, because I loathe the new covers, so I bought the old covers before they were all gone. It was my birthday present to myself. My birthday is in like a week and a half, so happy birthday. So and at the end, when Tamlin breaks free and starts to fight Amarantha, she is described as lashing out with her dark magic. The only time we hear about dark magic is it normally in regards to Volg magic. And when Tamlin fucks this bitch up, They never mention the color of her blood because we know Velg have black blood. Never is it mentioned what color her blood is. And I think that was on purpose. And so does Kylie.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm. Talking about Kylie like she's my best friend, and I know her. I don't. I want to be your best friend. I love your accent. You're adorable. And you have really awesome thoughts. That's why I'm highlighting and giving you your moment. So,
congratulations, Kylie. You're officially a roommate.
Yep. So, I am like, I'm sold. She's a princess of hell, just like Maeve.
Well, she could still be a prince of hell just in a female body on this particular plane, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because the Valg don't really have genders.
No, they do. They have male, female.
Do they really?
You'll get there. You'll get there. What one are you on again?
Tower of Dawn.
Oh, yeah, you'll get there in the next book, because then you all...
Now I see why people recommended doing a simultaneous read on these two books.
Mm-hmm. I didn't.
Because, man,
it was hard.
This one is so boring to start with.
It's hard, but I really fall in love with Urine.
Yeah. Because it's tough to go from all that rising action right back to all this, like, nothingness, and you're like...
You still have to pay attention, though, but it's good. So yeah, so that's the fan theory I wanted to highlight this week from Kylie. I am ride or die with her on this one. I already kind of had a feeling that she was some type of Velg just because she was with the King of Hybern, whom I believe in some capacity has Velg blood. Because he's supposed to be really freaking old too. Like when Feyre meets him back in the second book or whatever it is, in the castle, she talks about how he looks young, but she can just feel how freaking old he actually is. Like she knows he's ancient. So, and I have a theory about who the King of Hybern is. Like there was a joke about how it's Holland, Dorian's brother, little brother, because he just disappears from the story at one point. And I think because he's young and he was conceived when magic wasn't around and the Velg already were infesting their father. And I just feel like he's probably Velg of some way or sort because of that. And I think that's a very solid connection.
I can see that.
Yeah.
I can see that.
Yep.
Speaking of TikTok and book talk, have you heard of Bryce Savage?
Bryce Savage and Nefex, because they're the same person. Nefex was a duo and now it's just Bryce. But I have basically been listening to them nonstop on repeat for over a year.
Have you listened to his new album that he created just for book talk?
Yes, because Bryce puts out a song almost every week. So there's a couple songs in there that had already been released, and he finally launched it as an album. And now this album is like 20 songs deep or something. Half
something
of it,
like that, yeah.
Yeah, but half of it is the songs repeated at a different, they're slowed and reverbed, so they sound a little bit different. I actually don't like those ones as much as I like the originals. I think he should have just launched the originals. Huge fan. They're amazing. They're very good songs. He did a good job with them.
Go check them out.
Yeah, did a great job.
And they are just for book talk.
The album is called Book Talk.
Also,
called Book Talk.
I am absolutely loving all of these content creators that are like, y'all, Book Talk is crazy. And then like make their little videos to pander to Book Talk.
Yeah.
There was a mechanic or it's just some blue collar guy. And he's like, I heard Book Talk girls are cute. And it's just him pretending to read the manual. To his power stroke.
That's hilarious.
This so it's not, isn't really related to book talk, but it is related to TikTok because there is a Kilani. Sorry if I'm saying that wrong. But she does piano covers of heavy metal, and it is fucking amazing.
Yeah.
So if you love some heavy metal songs, go check her out.
Yeah.
They're fucking awesome.
You sent me that video and I was like insta follow because I
Yeah.
love music. I'm a giant music lover and I listen to everything. Everything. A lot of my coworkers actually when I'm driving the rental car around, they're like, I get whiplash from your playlist. And I'm like, heh, good. But I'm a huge classical fan, actually. So hearing these rock and metal songs being like toned down and the piano with them, and I loved the piano. I took piano for a little bit in college, and so good, very good. I instantly followed her. So thank you for sharing her with me.
Yeah, she deserves to be shared. She's got some good shit.
I want to back up to fan theories really quick because I forgot about this and I just scrolled down on my notes. What I'm going to actually do is I'm going to put this photo that I put notes on up on the screen. So if you're watching, you can follow along. But I'm quickly going to describe what the photo is for those of you who are just listening. This is the Yggdrasil tree. Or the world tree from Norse mythology. And it is typically seen as there's the tree of life and the tree of knowledge. So you have the tree, and they're typically depicted as one and the same, or one part being roots and the other being the tree. In this, though, it explains different realms. And it's wild, you guys. It's freaking wild how much it lines up with what's going on in the Maasaverse. Because, okay, I'm going to read this to you. Tree of Life, Norse mythology. Tree of Knowledge connecting to the heavens and the underworld. And the Tree of Life connecting all forms of creation are both forms of the world tree or the cosmic tree. And they're portrayed in various religions and philosophies as the same tree. In Germanic paganism and Norse mythology, the trees play a predominant role, appearing in various aspects of surviving texts and in the name of gods. This is the part that I think is one of the parts that I think is interesting. There's a lot of interesting things about this, you guys. So the Tree of Life appears in Norse religion as Yggdrasil. Sorry if I'm pronouncing it wrong. I did try to hear and listen to the correct pronunciation. But again, just the caveat of I'm a Midwestern. Okay. So I am Midwestern. A massive tree, sometimes considered a yew or an ash tree. So we know that the ash arrows are poison and ash trees are poison to the Fae and the Maasaverse fandom, specifically highlighted in ACOTAR. Extensive lore surrounding it. Accounts have survived Germanic tribes honoring sacred trees with their societies. Examples include Thor's Oak, sacred groves, the sacred tree at Uppsala, and the wooden Iramusil pillar. I apologize, y'all. And it also talks about how in Norse mythology, apples from Union's ash box provide immortality to the gods. But when we look at this photo, in the center is Midgard. And Midgard is Middle Earth or the human world. So on the screen, you'll see this, and You can see my note, Lunathon. So that's the city in Crescent City, and the world in Crescent City is called Midgard. There are two northern branches of that. One is the realm of fire and heat. I cannot pronounce what the actual name of it is, but it's the realm of fire and heat. Illyria, throne of glass, fire and heat, air of fire. To the other side is the realm of land and sea. And Vinar, which Vinar are actually talked about in Crescent City, but that's Perinthian. In the northern, right above Midgard, is the realm of light elves and air spirits. Now, I noted Asteri here because there's a set of beings in Crescent City called Asteri, and they're light beings. Above that is Asgard, or the Garden of the Sky Gods. So I'm like, is that the gods from Throne of Glass? Because I have a theory, and this shouldn't ruin it, Crescent City, too much. I don't think. I'm just going to say this is a big Crescent City spoiler. Kristin, you'll forget about it and you'll remember when you're reading. I'm sorry. I theorize that the Asteri were the same gods from Throne of Glass, like a long time ago. Maybe they still are, maybe they aren't. Who knows? Someday I'll find out when all those 7 other books come out. Now, that's the northern part of the tree. So the southern part of the tree, depicted in this photo as more roots or the underworld, which is what it is, has mirroring realms. Let me say that again. It has mirrored realms. So there are also, leaving Midgard, to one side is the realm of the giants. Not so sure about what that could be. To the other side is the realm of ice and cold. Interesting. Then there's the realm of the black elves and the stone spirits. I'm wondering if that's where the Velg actually come from. And then below that is hell, or the underworld. And we start hearing a lot about hell in Crescent City series. Now, there are also some other things in this, and there's the well, the fountain, and the spring. There's something that starts to be talked about. It's talked about in ACOTAR. When Rhysand hides stuff, he hides it in pocket realms. There's discussion of pocket realms in Crescent City as well. And so I'm wondering if this well, fountain, and spring, if these different items are these pocket realms that are there. There are some other things in this photo that kind of stick out, or this image. It's an old text image. There's stag, there's dragons, there's a serpent eating its tail. There's giants, there's Thor, there's ravens, there's crescent moon. There is a lot of things that I think relate back to what SJM is doing here. And we know that SJM uses mythology for her stories, right?
Right.
But it's absolutely fascinating. When I found this, I just instantaneously started marking it up like, oh my gosh, this is the Tree of Life. And the other reason I bring it up is because if you look at the cover of House of Flame and Shadow, there behind the woman who's sitting there, you have 2 serpents. But then if you look behind her, it almost looks like a gate is opening up, and out the sides a tree is coming out.
Mm-hmm.
So that's all, folks. That's all I'm going to say about that.
I mean, yeah, a lot of her stuff, names and stuff, does relate back to a lot of different types of mythology, right? From Greek to Celtic, all different types. You want me to jump into my unhinged rant of the week?
Yep, I'm ready for it, Kristin.
All right. So my favorite author, and I think Bobby's favorite author, Trelina Pucci, she was commenting on her stories about how somebody jumped into her DMs and not only told her that they didn't like Not So Lucky, but then went on an entire rant of what she should have done differently, how the character should have acted differently, how it should have ended differently, and this and that. Um, I don't know why people think authors give a fuck, first and foremost. I just don't know why, right? Like, go ahead, go write your little 1-star review and rip it to shreds. Multiple authors across multiple platforms have been like, don't tag me in it. I don't give a shit. You know, like, my job was to write it and put it out there, and then you can just feel however you want to feel about it. But can you imagine the type of audacity it takes to show up in somebody's DMs and be like, I think you wrote this book wrong. I think it should have ended differently. Like, bitch, just shut the fuck up and go write a book. If you think your plot and your characters are so much better, just go write a book. I would bet every dollar I got that no author that has ever published, whether with a publishing company or like self-published, has ever been like, let me hop in your DMs and say I wouldn't have done it that way, because that's just not done. It's just not done.
Yeah, I saw that same story from Trelina, and I was like, she posted the nicer version of her feels, and I was like, girl, I'm here for the I'm here for the immediate reaction version, Trelina, because bet she's funny when she's not mad. I bet she's fucking next level hysterical when she's pissed off. Like, I never want anyone to be in a bad mood, but I would probably pay money to see Trelina go after somebody, because she's so creative with her humor.
Uncensored.
Just uncensored Trelina. Yeah, I'm here for it.
But I feel like the whole rant could be summed up with that one phrase of like, those who can do, those who can't jump in your DMs and give you a little lecture about what they would have done different.
Yep. Yeah.
Anyways, you can jump in our DMs.
Yeah. Come say hi.
We need some material for next week's episode.
I'm always the person. We've got a couple YouTube comments, and I comment back. I don't give them like my time. Like, I saw it like a few days later or whatever, but I thank them for their thoughts and go on my merry way feeling just fine.
That one guy that was like, the algorithm must be smoking crack.
Yep.
For recommending this video to me.
I commented back on that. So if you want to see what I commented back, go check out our episode number 9, Amplifying the Voices of the LGBTQ Community. Yeah, go check out that comment, watch that video, leave another comment, let me know your thoughts.
Okay, so let's get to the meat of it. These reviews, 1-star reviews for A Court of Silver Flames. I just gotta say, man, none of these were funny. None of them. Remember last week when somebody was like, I think Reese can suck his own dick? None of these were funny. These were very serious. These were tough to read. It was tough to get through these, because these people were pissed. And not like in I wasted my time reading this. They were pissed in like why'd you have to do Nesta so dirty kind of way. And I gotta be honest, man. SJM does have a habit of forcing you to hate one character so that you like another one, right?
Yep.
She has to like alienate. Like, she had to like alienate Tamlin so that we liked Rhysand. And she just doesn't leave a lot of like gray area or, you know, like moral ambiguity. So obviously we don't have time to read all of them. but a lot of them said the same thing of like Nesta was going through some PTSD from going through all of that shit and watching, like, obviously being thrown into the cauldron and watching Cassian die
And watching her dad
and
die.
and watching her dad die, and as she's mourning through all of this, the entire inner circle is just like bashing on her nonstop.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, damn. You
This-
know, like,
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I want to go ahead and say that the couple reviews that I did read, because I let Kristin do a lot of the digging because I was doing a lot of the fan theory stuff. A couple of the ones that I did read talk about how you start to really dislike a lot of the characters you previously loved. And I 110% agree with that. And when I say that this book was my favorite out of the series, it's for a lot of different reasons that some of the reviews that I read never pointed out, because everyone was so angry about how much they now hate characters they like loved and adored so much before.
yeah, and that is definitely a reoccurring theme, is that everybody was like, Nesta's the only one, or like, we hated Nesta because she was unapologetic about being in pain, right? And that's a reoccurring theme, is that Nesta is unapologetic that she's struggling. And what did the inner circle do? They body shamed her, like, right, making fun of how skinny she is. They talk about how, like, well, obviously it's hard to look good when you're just drinking all the time and staying out late and this and that. Court of Silver Flames is potentially the worst book I have ever read, especially in terms of character development. We start with Nesta, traumatized and lashing out. And what do we finish with? Nesta, who has to go and beg for everyone's forgiveness. And nobody once apologized to her despite everything. I think Farah apologized once, and Rhysand buys her a dress.
Yeah.
After, you know, Mor and Amren?
Yeah.
You know, they claim to be good friends with her, and then they're just shitted on her the entire time.
Yeah, Amren specifically there. And when I tell you how much I hate Rhysand in this book,
Right?
I fucking hate Rhysand in this book. Like, he pisses me off so much in this book for how he treats all of the sisters, not just Nesta, all the sisters. Because there's some shit with Elaine that I didn't like, because he's all mad at Azriel because Azriel's kind of like crushing on her, but he's all so gung-ho and old school about the mating bond, so he's like telling Azriel to back off when Elaine deserves some happiness and friendship, and she has that with Azriel. And when Rhysand is talking or taking away, holding knowledge away from Feyre, that's literal life or death knowledge, and he normally always gives her a choice. Always gives her a choice. It's the pivotal thing in the second book that makes Feyre love Rhysand, is that he always says it's your choice. But then in this book, when there's a really important item to discuss that's life or death for the both of them, he hoards that knowledge and doesn't tell her about it. And I'm like, who are you? The only thing that he did right in this book was when Amren was talking about becoming the High King of Prythian, he was like, absolutely not. That is the only thing Rhysand did good in this whole book, is he put his foot down against Amren when she made that comment. I'll stop. Sorry.
No, that's what a lot of these reviews said. They're like, how did I turn into hating Rhysand? Like, he was the worst in this entire book. And somebody actually had the best, this was part of her review. She said, here's something my father told me, and I'm going to translate. If you want to know if a guy is problematic, never watch him interact with a woman who actually bid on him or behave within the constraints he imposes. Observe how he interacts with women who openly disagree with him. Nesta challenges Rhys, and he feels threatened. I believe Rhys Dearest is not a feminist. As a result, he retaliates by bullying her and making her miserable.
That hurts. He's not my favorite. He's not my favorite guy in the fandom, anyways, in the Maasaverse, anyways. But he was up there
because it's one of those things. I think this was a great point of like thinking back of like, yeah, this is the first female in all of the books that is going against what Rhysand wants, and is not just being sassy and cute, but actually challenging him. And he turns into a fucking monster. Somebody did bring up that this was a really good opportunity for SJM to tell the readers about like Nesta's struggle, and it was a great opportunity for other main characters to aid her in getting through it. But among other things, the fandom was just busy worshiping the inner circle while they just shit on Nesta.
Yep. And I think it's really funny because, again, going back to Asriel, it's really funny because one of the people who silently supports Nesta literally never says something about her bad is there, because at first she like refuses to train until like Asriel says he'll train with her, and then slowly Cassian helps in the training too, but she specifically starts her training with Asriel. He's just like, yeah, okay, yep, I'll help, I can do that, yep, I'll be there. And then when she invites all these other women, he's like, yep, I'm gonna support all of you. And we want to talk about a true feminist in this whole fucking series, just Asriel.
Yeah.
Like, and I like, that's why so many people like want his story and his background, whatever that is. I'm one of those people because I think Asriel, like Nesta, so the reason I loved this book so much is because of Nesta's trauma journey. It is so relatable. It's so relatable because this story is still about found family and like created family, but from a perspective of pure trauma. And the reason I like that so much is because it was really, really relatable for my life. As there was a period of my life where it was not great, really dark. And I now have this whole tribe of women that is the most amazing thing in my life. All of my girlfriends, all these women in my life, and that's exactly what Nesta built. So it was a super relatable book because it's talking about all these very real issues that happen to women. And of course it's a fantasy book, so it like changes the context in some way, but the underlying message is still there. You know, because like people don't talk about men not eating and commenting on how skinny they are, and people don't talk about men's drinking problems as much as they would talk about a woman's addiction. Though men do get sexually assaulted, it pales into comparison the number of women who get sexually assaulted. I also know that men don't report as much, which is also a problem, and I think we need to provide that safe space for anybody to report something. But you have, you know, discussions around sexual assault, and then you have discussions around, you know, women in certain cultures having modifications done to their body, like the Illyrian women getting their wings clipped, right? So they can't fly. All of these things and how they overcome it. They enter into a race that's a man's race and they come out on top, right? So I think that is why I love the story. Because I really felt so connected to Nesta's journey and finding all these women. And that's why I love this book. I also know that this story is setting up a lot of stuff for what's to come. And I'm really excited for that storyline. I'm really excited to see where the story goes, but I'm hoping very much that there is redemption for some of these other characters.
SJM doesn't do redemption very well, if we've noticed anything from Rhysand and Nesta's stories. And I think the reason so many of these 1-star reviews were so pissed off is because they felt exactly the way you felt, is that Nesta's character was so relatable, and none of the other characters were supportive at all. Right? Like, they're like, this is the most relatable trauma out of everything that we've gone through. And I think a lot of them looked back and were like, you know, maybe Tamlin wasn't such a bad guy. It's just the way SJM shits on some of these characters so hard.
And I think that the family dynamic here, because if we look at like Nesta being the black sheep of the family, when we're talking about the inner circle as a family, that in and of itself is extremely relatable to people. Still a really good book, despite probably being one of the most frustrating ones to read in the series. I still say get through it all, hang with it. But again, I'm a masochist, so I don't know what to say. If you're not ready to become a masochist, then you should get out of the room.
Yeah. Yeah, those reviews were tough this week, but
I knew my feelings were going to be hurt, and they were, but for different reasons than I thought. And at almost all the reviews I agreed with, but one of the frustrating things is even in the good reviews, I didn't feel like people captured my perspective of the book very well. So glad I have a podcast to be able to put them out into the ether. But yep.
Yeah, absolutely.
So next week we will have more stuff to talk about. So be sure to come back and hear what we have to say. We'll be pivoting a little bit from 1-star reviews and into a different topic. Be sure to come back next week. We're going to be pivoting away from the 1-star reviews into some other fun topics. So thanks for listening. If you haven't yet, make sure to like, subscribe, leave a comment, give us your feedback. Maybe someday we'll be able to read our own 1-star reviews and really love them and laugh about them. Until then, check out our social media at Get in Our Room on Instagram, and Gior Media, Gior Media on TikTok. We'd love to see you over there on our pages.